Okay, we got to figure out which Mini Cooper convertible is the best. Now, as you've seen in the previous 3 videos, I've gone through 3 different generations of the Mini convertible. The R52, the F57, and the R57. I didn't do those in order, so sue me. We got to figure out which one is the best though. And that could come down to a number of factors. It could come down to size of the car, refinements in the mechanicals on the vehicle, number of things, safety even. But we're going to focus on a few factors. The R52, first generation of the Mini convertible, was available in a naturally aspirated and supercharged engine. It had an automatic or manual transmission. Now, it also had the CVT transmission from hell that was in the base Cooper. That wasn't exactly the best transmission, but it happens. The R57 generation had a notoriety for the N14 engine, which was not necessarily great. It had timing chain issues. And then we come into the F57 generation, which had some problems of its own early on, mainly a crank walk issue with the engine if you had a manual transmission. That was the 2014 model. However, they sorted that out by the time the convertible came out, so we really don't have that issue. So I'm going to figure out what defines the best Mini convertible. And let's focus on the fact that they all drive relatively about the same. They're all great. So we're going to focus on the size of the Mini as my basis for comparison. So we have the first generation of the Mini convertible. It had a wheelbase of 97.1 inches. It had an overall length of 142.8. It had a width of 66.5, and it had a height of 55.5. So, good base point to start with. That is the smallest one out of the 3. Let's go on to generation number 2, the R57. It had an overall wheelbase of 97.1 inches. It had a length of 145.6, width of 66.3, and a height of 55.4. Now, let's compare those 2 dimensions. 97.1 is what I just told you. That's the same wheelbase as the R52, the first generation. 142.8 in length. It grew by less than 3 inches. Width. Now, this is the funny thing. The width on the R52 was 66.5. The width on the R57 was 66.3. So it actually shrunk in width. It got narrower. Height, about the same, 55.5, 55.4. Now we get to the crux of the argument, and the one that everyone loves to complain about, the F57, the F series of the Mini, the 3rd generation, the one that everyone says looks like a beached whale or is just too big. I disagree, and here's why. Here's the wheelbase of the F57, 98.2. The wheelbase of the previous generation, 97.1. It grew by an inch. An inch. That's it. That's the wheelbase. It grew by an inch in wheelbase. Now let's go to the length of the car. 150.4. Previous generation, 145.6. All right, so it grew by 5 inches in length. That's mostly body of the car. Let's go with the width. 68 inches, and the width of the previous generation was 66.3, so it grew wider by 2 inches. Okay. Height, 55.7. Height of the previous generation was 55.4. All these dimensions are really negligible. The cars are still roughly the same size, and the length that's been added is mostly in the bumpers, and that's mostly for pedestrian safety. So, they didn't really change much. The styling's different, they look different, but they're all still almost the same size car. So with that being said, which generation of the Mini is the best? Which generation of the Mini convertible is the best? And I'll answer that by telling you all this. Life is too short to drive a boring car, so buy a Mini. I'll catch you later.